watching India Today Global with me, Shita Mitra. It's Tuesday morning in the Indian capital, and at this hour, we bring you the latest from around the globe. Starting with a high-profile interview, Tesla CEO Elon Musk held a conversation with Republicans' presidential nominee Donald Trump. The interview, which was live-streamed on Musk's X platform, initially faced setbacks, with many users unable to join the live conversation. Musk blamed the disruptions on DDoS, which stands for Disrupted Denial of Service Attack. So such an attack disrupts a targeted server or a network's normal traffic by flooding in the target user. So in the beginning of the interview, Trump described his assassination attempt as a hard hit, while calling Biden's exit from the presidential race as a coup. Trump reiterated his determination to fight against what he described as attempts to silence him and his supporters. He also emphasized his stance on illegal migration, claiming that the US has over 20 million illegal migrants, while he praised his policies during his presidency, arguing that they were critical for national security. He also attacked his rival Kamala Harris on border control policies, while adding that if she wins this election, it will be really difficult for US. Meanwhile, Trump also thanked Musk for his endorsement, while the Tesla CEO said it is essential that you win for the good of this country. Coming to Russia-Ukraine war now, the tide of war seems to be turning in favor of Kyiv. Ukraine says that it has captured about 1,000 square kilometers of Russia's Kursk region in its biggest cross-border assault of the year. Volodymyr Zelensky also added that now Russian President Vladimir Putin would have to be forced into making peace for this war. Now this, as Russia is still struggling to repel the surprise assault which began a week ago. According to the estimates of the Russia's acting regional governor of the region, Kyiv's forces have taken control of about 28 settlements in this incursion, which was about 12 km deep and 40 km wide. Moving to the West Asia now, Israeli forces continue to press on with operations near the southern city of Khan Yunis amid an international push for a ceasefire deal. Palestinian medics on Khan Yunis said that about 18 people were killed in the city, while 7 others were killed near Rafah on Monday. This as more and more families and displaced persons streamed out of areas threatened by new evacuation orders. As fighting continues, Hamas's response to the latest round of ceasefire talks remains skeptical, as it says that it sees no sign of movement from the Israeli side. The group said on Sunday that mediators must force Israel to accept a ceasefire proposal based on the ideas from President Joe Biden, which Hamas had accepted initially instead of pursuing further rounds of negotiations. As tensions grow in West Asia, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer held a call with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, urging him to refrain from attacking Israel, and said that war was not in anyone's interest. The phone call between the two leaders lasted for about 30 minutes and took place after Keir Starmer held a conversation with US President Joe Biden and other European allies. So Starmer told Pezeshkian that he was deeply concerned by the situation in West Asia and thus called on all parties to de-escalate to avoid further regional confrontation. He said the focus should be on diplomatic negotiations. Coming to Bangladesh now, the United States has denied any role in ousting the country's former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. She quit her position and fled the South Asian nation after the student-led anti-quota demonstrations turned violent. Now the White House said that allegations of US interference are simply false. Earlier, media reports cited Hasina as accusing the US of playing a role in her ouster because it wanted control over Bangladesh's St. Martin Island in the Bay of Bengal. The newspaper said Hasina had conveyed the message to it through her close associates, while Hasina's son Sajid Bazev in a post said that she never made any such comment. Meanwhile, an interim government in Bangladesh led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus will hold a meeting with the leaders of the country's minority communities in Dhaka today. This as attacks on Hindus continue to grow in the country. In another news, Pakistan's military said it has arrested retired General Faiz Hamid in connection with a land development case. Now, Hamid is a former head of the powerful Inter-Services Intelligence Agency. The arrest was ordered by the Pakistan Supreme Court, and the military said that violations of the Pakistan's Army Act after Hamid's retirement had also been established. So Hamid came into global spotlight when he was filmed drinking tea in the lobby of a Kabul hotel shortly after the Taliban had taken over Afghanistan following the pullout of US and other Western forces in 2021. The ISI had long been accused by Washington of backing the Taliban, while US-led forces were in Afghanistan from 2001 onwards. Hamid was also considered to be close to Imran Khan, who named him to head the ISI when he was the premier. Khan was ousted in 2022 in a vote of no confidence that he alleges was orchestrated by the military. South Korea and the United States are set to begin their annual summertime military drills next week to ramp up their capability. Now, the exercise aims to counter North Korea's threats as it continues to develop its nuclear and missile programs. The Freedom Shield exercise will begin from August 19 and will continue till 29. The militaries of both the countries have specified that drills will reflect realistic threats across all domains, and this will include North's missile threats, GPS jamming, cyber attacks, and other lessons learned from the recent incidents. About 19,000 South Korean troops will take part in about 48 rounds of combined field training, including field maneuver, live fire, and amphibious exercises. North Korea has long denounced the allies for stoking tensions in the region with military drills, often describing them as rehearsals for a nuclear war. In another news from Africa, the death toll has climbed to over 24 after a mountain of rubbish collapsed in Uganda. Rescues continue to dig through the rubble in the capital city days after the disaster struck at a landfill. At least 4 children are among the dead, according to local police. The Kitiza landfill is a vast rubbish dump site in an impoverished hillside area that receives about hundreds of waste disposal trucks a day, despite being declared full years ago. It has been described as sort of no man's land frequented by women and children who scavenge plastic waste that they aim to sell. Up next, the most severe forest fire of the year has raged out of control in Athens. The massive blaze, helped by strong winds and bone-dry conditions, has forced many to leave their homes in the northern suburbs of the Greek capital. Hospitals have been evacuated and some areas have suffered power cuts as temperatures neared about 40 degrees Celsius. Residents have been complaining of not being able to breathe properly as the blanket of smoke and ash covered the city center. Around 700 firefighters are battling the flames, which began on Sunday about 20 miles from Athens. More than 190 vehicles are being used, along with 17 water-dropping planes and 16 helicopters to provide aerial support. Thank you so much for watching this segment. Stay tuned to India Today Global for more such news.